Hi, welcome to the Harvest Table. Tonight we're going to be talking about a man named Samson. And Samson's story can be found in the book of Judges, chapters 13 through 16. And of course, we don't have time to read all of those on this video, but I do encourage you to read them. And if you're not familiar with the story, read them a couple times and really soak in the life of Samson and how God worked in his life. But I want to cover three truths about Samson's life and about ours. And Samson was a judge in Israel. And in chapter 13, verses 3 through 5, I am going to begin by reading that. And it says, "The angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife," that's Samson's father, "and said, 'Even though you have been unable to have children, you will soon become pregnant and give birth to a son. So be careful. You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, nor eat any forbidden food. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and his hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines, or the Philistines, whichever way you want to say that. But God had a plan. And the first truth I want to share with you is it says, even before he was born, God's hand was on his life. An angel of the Lord appeared to his mother. And that's not only true for Samson, that's true for us as well. Before you were born, God knew you in your mother's womb. And sometimes we don't realize this, but it is a divine truth that it does not matter to God what your circumstances were when you were born. God has a purpose for your life that's bigger than your circumstances. And I'm not the only one. There are millions and millions and millions of children born into circumstances they wish had been different, and they wish it had been more perfect. But God doesn't need perfection. He shows us that in this case with Samson, and he will show it in your case as well. So don't be discouraged if you weren't born into a perfect family. Don't be discouraged if your children aren't acting like they have a Christian mother and father, because God still has a plan for their life. That's truth number one. And truth number two, divine intervention was real for Samson, and it's real for you and I today. Divine intervention is not just about us, it's about God's big picture as well. So we're talking about two factors here. One is Samson himself, and two is Samson as part of God's plan for the nation of Israel. So there's two factors in Samson's life, there's two factors in our life. God has a bigger picture. And the third factor that's truth about Samson and is truth about us, Samson's strength was not from his hair, even though it appeared as such, but it truly was from God. We may have many qualities that we feel are good and an asset to whatever we want to do in life, and they may very well be an asset, but it's not the final answer. It's not the solution to what God's plan is for our life. Our ultimate, our ultimate source of strength, our final victory is not going to be by our strength, but by God. And one ingredient that I want to make sure we realize at the end of this story, if you read this all the way through to chapter 16 and find out the end of Samson, you're going to find out that not only was God's plan important, but so was God's grace. And I want to encourage you today to know and fully believe God's grace is for your life as well as it was for Samson. I cannot begin to tell you how many times I've needed God's grace in my life. And truly, I need it every day, but sometimes there are situations that we need more of God's grace. And the grace is there. It was there for me, it still is there for me, and it's there for you. So don't be discouraged, and above all, don't let the enemy tell you there's no use. Just give up. You failed. You failed too big, you messed up too big, or you failed one time too many. No, that's not true. As long as you have breath in your body, and that breath comes from God, there's a chance, because God's grace is sufficient for you. God's grace is sufficient for me. So don't go into any battle thinking you have to rely on your own strength. I've got great news for you today. It's God's strength that will see you through. It's God's strength that's been with me and David through all of our battles, and it's God's strength that's going to carry us home. I don't worry about tomorrow because I know God is already there. His strength is sufficient to carry me through. So whatever's on your heart tonight, whatever you feel has just been overwhelming for you, and believe me, I totally understand. Some circumstances can be so overwhelming. I mean, it's a true fact. You are overwhelmed. Samson was overwhelmed as you get into his story. But some of that he did to himself by giving in to temptation. But whatever makes you feel overwhelmed, maybe it's something you do, maybe it's something you didn't even have any control over, but it still overwhelmed you. It could be something that happened to a loved one. It could be something that happened at your work. It could be something that happened just in the general population, that it was like the last straw for you. It was just too much. No, not with God. It's not the last straw. It's not too much. It's nothing that God can't conquer if you allow him to. So do as Samson did and say, Lord, just one more time, I'm calling on you. Today, let this be the day that you give God one more chance to work in your life. He is more than willing and more than able to see you through. So God bless you today. I pray that message sinks into your spirit and gives you renewed strength and encourages you to keep going forward. There's no time to quit now. God doesn't give up on us, and we're certainly not going to give in to Satan and give up on God achieving his purpose for our lives, because we know his plan is perfect. And also his plan isn't just about you, but it's about the entire world. God has a plan to redeem the world, and you and I are in it to have a small place in that plan. God bless you till next time.